My father threw a lavish party for his birthday, inviting everyone but me. I went anyway. When the speeches started, my uncle said, "It's a pity that some people never live up to their last name." Then I came forward with my own gift. When I handed over the gift, my father held onto the edge of the table. I knew I wasn't welcome, but I went anyway. My father was having a birthday party, a big, extravagant event at a prestigious venue. I found out about it on social media, where my cousins and uncles were sharing posts about the biggest holiday of the year. My name was not on the guest list. It never was. For years, I was a shadow of a family that everyone conveniently forgot. Birthday greetings went unanswered, holidays passed without a single greeting, and any attempt to reach me was met with silence. I never understood why. I wasn't a failure, at least not in the way I was made to feel. I had a steady job, a good life, but I was invisible to them. But this time I was not going to stay away. I arrived at the party dressed in my best suit and holding a carefully wrapped gift. The room was packed: relatives, family, friends, business associates, all laughing, drinking, and celebrating a man they admired. No one greeted me. Not even a glance. It was as if I did not exist. I didn't show it. I found a quiet corner and watched. My father was in the middle, shaking hands, laughing, beaming with joy. He looked genuinely happy. I had seen that smile before, but I had never seen it directed at me. Then the speeches began. My uncle, who always spoke the loudest in the room, took the microphone. He raised his glass and smiled. "A man's heritage is his greatest achievement," he said, looking around the room. "And my dear brother has created something truly remarkable. A name that means success, power, and respect. But," he paused for effect, his eyes resting on me, "it is a pity that some people never live up to their name." There was silence in the room for a moment, and then laughter came from some corners. My father did not react. He didn't even look at me. I took a deep breath and stood up. It was time to change the script. The room was still buzzing from my uncle's comment when I stepped forward, gift in hand. Most people barely noticed my presence, but as I approached my father, the chatter died down. I stopped in front of him. He looked at me, his expression unreadable. If he was surprised by my arrival, he did not show it. I handed him the gift. "Father," I said, my voice calm, loud enough for everyone to hear. "You were never proud of me. We were never close. But I still love you." I placed the small box on the table in front of him. "And I want you to have this." There was a murmur among the guests. My father hesitated, then slowly reached for the box. He pulled the ribbon, lifted the lid, and froze. Inside were the keys to a brand new Porsche Panamera, the car he had talked about for years. The one he had always dreamed of but could never afford. A sharp intake of breath came from somewhere in the crowd. My uncle, who had just been taunting me, sat up abruptly, his eyes almost popping out of his head. The silence in the room was deafening. My father's hands shook as he picked up the keys. His face turned pale. He looked at me, then back at the keys, as if trying to comprehend what had just happened. When he finally spoke, his voice was barely audible. "Did you buy this?" "Yes," I replied simply. Someone at the entrance ran outside. A moment later a voice came. "Oh my God, there's a Porsche in the driveway." Chairs scraped the floor as people rushed to see for themselves. I stayed where I was and looked at my dad. His eyes were shining. He was not the type to cry in public, but he was about to. I had never seen him look so shocked. The crowd poured into the street, their voices a mixture of disbelief and curiosity. I stepped back and looked at my father. He was still holding the keys, clutching them tightly as if afraid they would disappear. Finally I spoke. "It's yours. No strings attached." He exhaled sharply and ran his hand over his face. For the first time in his life, he looked at me not with disappointment, but with something else, something I couldn't yet name. We walked outside together. The Porsche stood there, gleaming in the headlights, its sleek black body reflecting the stunned faces of our family. People surrounded it, some taking pictures, others just shaking their heads in wonder. My uncle stood by the hood, silent this time, his jaw clenched. One of my cousins whistled. "Holy shit, this is the real thing." Several people looked at my dad, waiting for his reaction. My father took slow steps toward the car, running his fingers over the hood. Then, without saying a word, he turned to me. "Why?" he asked. It was a simple question, but it carried the weight of years of silence, years of neglect. I shrugged. "Because I wanted to." He looked at me for a long time. Then, to everyone's shock, he stepped forward and hugged me tightly. The crowd gasped. My father had never been a gentle man, he didn't like public displays of emotion. But now he held me as if to make up for lost time. I could hear his voice echoing in his chest. I don't deserve this. I pulled away and looked at him. Maybe not, I said, but that doesn't mean I don't deserve it. But it doesn't mean I don't love you. His eyes sparkled again. He nodded and squeezed my shoulder. Then he turned to the car, shaking his head in disbelief. But before I could say anything else, my uncle laughed out loud. That's it, he muttered. You ignored him for years and now he's your favorite son because he bought you a car? The air became tense. I turned to my uncle. He was seething, his face flushed with something close to jealousy. I'm just saying, he continued, looking around for support. You can't buy your way into respect. It takes more than one shining moment to change who you are. My father's jaw clenched. For the first time in my life he came to my defense. My father turned to my uncle, his expression cold. And what exactly has respect meant to you in the past? The crowd moved uncomfortably. My uncle had always been the loudest voice in the family, the one who dictated who was worthy and who was not. No one had ever challenged him until now. He laughs, trying to regain his composure. I'm just saying, throwing money around doesn't change the past. My father takes a slow step forward. You're right. It doesn't. But ignoring someone, putting them down, treating them like they don't exist, that shapes the present. Silence. My uncle's complacency is shattered. He did not expect this. I looked at my father, stunned. The man who for years had looked right through me as if I were invisible, was now standing up for me in front of everyone. I've made mistakes, my father continued. His voice was calm but heavy with something real. I let people tell me who to value, who to listen to. And I was wrong. I wasn't sure if he was talking to my uncle or me. Maybe he was talking to both of us. For the first time, my uncle did not know what to say. He looked around, expecting someone to agree with him, but no one did. People moved awkwardly, avoiding his gaze. He scoffed again, but this time it sounded forced. Whatever you say. Enjoy your new favorite son. With that, he turned and walked toward the house, muttering under his breath. I exhaled, realizing I had held my breath. My father looked at me again, this time with something I'd never seen in his eyes before: pity. Can we talk? He asked. I nodded. As the party around us tried to resume its rhythm, we walked away, leaving the past behind. We walked away from the crowd, past the chattering guests, into the quiet of the backyard. The music from the party was still playing, but it seemed far away now. My father leaned against the railing and stared into the night. He was silent for a long time. Then he finally spoke. I don't even know where to start. I remained silent, letting him take his time. He ran a hand through his hair. I wasn't always like this, you know. I was different. But somewhere along the way, I let people shape my thinking: your uncle, my business partners, even my own pride. He sighed. I convinced myself that success was about being around the right people. And for some reason, I let them convince me that you weren't one of them. His words were like a confession. I swallowed hard. So, why did you believe them? He turned to look at me. Because I was a coward. I wasn't expecting that. He shook his head, his voice dropping. You weren't like your cousins. You didn't care about impressing people, playing their games. And that scared me because I thought it meant you didn't fit in. I thought it meant you would fail. I exhaled slowly. But I didn't fail. He laughed bitterly. No, you didn't. You didn't fail. He looked down at the keys in his hand and turned them. And now, after all, you did it for me. I shrugged. I didn't do it to prove anything. I know, he said. That makes it worse. He finally met my gaze, and for the first time in my life, I saw something real in his eyes. Not just regret. Not just guilt. But something deeper. Can I fix this? He asked. I let the question hang in the air. I had longed for those words for years. But now that they were here, I didn't know what to do with them. My father and I hurried to the driveway, where the party guests were gathered in a nervous semicircle. My uncle was standing in the middle, arguing with two policemen. His face was flushed and his hands were gesticulating wildly. What the hell is going on? My father asked. One of the cops turned to him. Sir, we received a report of fraudulent activity involving the purchase of a car. We need to ask you some questions. I blinked. Fraud. The officer looked at me. A Porsche. Someone reported that it was fraudulently purchased in your name. I felt a shiver run down my spine. I turned to my uncle. He was not looking at me, he was looking at my father, waiting for his reaction. And then I realized, he was the one who had called her. He wanted to humiliate me, to make sure that I would not have this moment. He wanted my father to believe that I wasn't really successful, that I had somehow cheated to afford the car. My dad took a slow step forward. Are you telling me that my own brother called you? The officer hesitated. We're just checking the message. My father turned to my uncle. Did you do this? My uncle laughed. Oh, come on. How else could he afford it? Something doesn't add up. My dad's expression darkened. He reached into his pocket, pulled out his cell phone, and made a call. The call rang twice before someone answered. This is father's name. Pause. Yes, I can confirm that the purchase was legal. My son purchased the car honestly and fairly. There is no fraud involved. A few more seconds passed before my father handed the phone to the officer. You can check it yourself. The officer took the phone, spoke briefly, and nodded after a minute. Looks like everything checks out. He turned to me. Sorry for the trouble. The tension in the air slowly dissipated. The officers left and the guests, still stunned, began to whisper to each other. I turned to my uncle. Was it worth it? He clenched his jaw, but before he could speak, my father spoke. I never want to see you in my house again. My uncle's eyes widened. You chose him over your own brother? No, my father replied. I choose good over evil. Something I should have done a long time ago. My uncle stammered, looking around for support, but no one came to his defense. He turned and ran, disappearing into the night. For the first time I felt lighter. My father turned to me. I'm sorry. I nodded. Let's see if you mean it. He didn't argue. He just nodded back. The party never recovered after that. People left in waves, still whispering about what had happened. In the end, it was just me and my dad standing in the driveway, the Porsche gleaming in the headlights. He looked at it, then at me. Want to go for a ride? I thought for a moment. Then I smiled at him for the first time in years. Yes, I said. Let's go.